Daily today discussing Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. And let's pose the question here, Sam. First off, what do we know about Tua? And is he the guy going forward? We talk about this a lot on the PFF NFL podcast, but I figured it was worth an entire daily on Tua right now because he's completing a ridiculously high percentage of passes. He's been far more efficient in recent weeks, and the Dolphins are winning. So I'm sure Dolphins fans are feeling pretty good about Tua right now. But what do we know about him as a quarterback and his future now with the Dolphins?
Not a damn thing. That's basically the size of it. No, look, I think we've learned a little bit about Tua. He's improved since he's returned, since the season is worn on. I do think that there is several pieces of evidence that Tua elevates the play of people around him. And by people around him, I mean Jalen Waddle in particular and the offensive line, which is a walking sack of garbage. The Miami Dolphins offensive line is the worst offensive line in the NFL this year. It is on pace to be one of the worst offensive lines we've seen in 15 years worth of grading. It is a catastrophe, and it looks much better when Tua is the quarterback than when Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback. So this is one of the things that people always want to see from quarterbacks, right? Can you elevate the play of the people around you? Now, usually they talk about, like, can you take them from good to great? But there's probably something to, can you take them from catastrophic to like just bad? And Tua is able to do that. So it's never going to look pretty because he doesn't have the Justin Herbert rocket arm. He doesn't have the Cam Newton size and stature. He doesn't have those sort of, freakish physical gifts. And therefore it kind of looks a little bit hard work when Tua's playing. But at some point, he's actually doing reasonably well for a guy that's only like 16 games into his career at this point.
Yeah, I think it's tough for me to have a definitive conclusion. And look,
nobody can have. I mean, the point I made at the start was facetious, but genuinely, nobody knows right now. Like, you cannot possibly have a definitive answer of exactly what Tua is based off what we know so far.
Yeah, I don't want to completely just answer the critics, so to speak. So you'll have some critics who are like, "Oh, PFF guys, you're always thinking about your draft takes and trying to justify them." If that was the case, I'd tell you, well, yeah, Tua's awesome. Finally figuring out being what we thought he would be. Because the pre-draft take was, well, Tua's the guy above Justin Herbert, right? It was Burrow, clear number one for us, then Tua, and then Justin Herbert, who looked like the biggest risk to us among the potential first round quarterbacks. Clearly, to this point, wrong about that one, right? So I'm not going to sit here and try to justify Tua. The other element of it is us, justifying current grades and all that stuff. And I think the current grades just describe what's happening. And let me just describe what's happening right now. In recent weeks, Tua is completing over 80% of his passes. He's over 70% now for the season. Over the last few weeks since he came back in the Ravens game, he is fourth in yards per attempt, but only third lowest average depth of target. So that means something's happening there schematically. Or Jalen Waddle, when he gets the really nice dig route from Tua, that should be a 15-yarder. He turns it into a 50-yarder, whatever it might be. So I think there are good things happening, right? The accuracy, the quick decision-making. But when you say it's difficult, I don't know if it's Tua difficult to watch as far as like, how did you describe it? Like, it's like we're straining for every yard. I've gotten that feeling of the Dolphins offense this entire year because it is so RPO, that's run pass option driven. It is so short pass driven. And that's where I'm wondering, again, is that Tua holding it back, or is it the fact that they do have this historically bad offensive line in front of them?
See, that's the thing. Like, there's so many. Evidently, Tua is not certainly where Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert is. And actually, the PFF grades right now, I think, kind of tell a fairly accurate story. It's Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert right behind him in terms of overall grade. Jalen Hurts is the next guy from that draft class, but he's a significant step backwards. And then another significant step, about the same kind of leap, down to Tua. Now, okay, Tua's trending in the right direction since he's come back and all those kinds of things. But I think that's basically what you would expect based off those four quarterbacks right now. But the big missing piece in all this, or the big sort of variant, is that offensive line in Miami, which is, it's very difficult to overstate how problematic that is. Like, an offensive line that bad is non-functional. It is way worse than the offensive line that got Joe Burrow murdered last season and was seen to be this catastrophe. And I said catastrophe several times already. And memes were being made, with Penei Sewell. You must draft Penei Sewell or Joe Burrow will be injured again because that offensive line is so bad. Miami's offensive line this year is way worse than that Cincinnati line was last season. So if you're analyzing what Tua is doing right now, you have to factor in how bad that line is. And in any normal circumstances, you would be saying that line is so bad, you basically can't learn anything from this group. Same with, look at a different draft class, but Daniel Jones right now has no shot because of that offensive line. Again, that line is better than the one Tua is dealing with. So anything you do to try and evaluate where Tua is right now, it has to be painted with this context of that offensive line.
Football fans, I'm sure we all love an action-packed, high-scoring NFL game, but with the latest no-brainer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you'll be a winner once a single point is scored. New customers who bet just $1 on any team to score can win $100 in free bets. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't yet available in your state, you can still get in on the NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. And DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $1 on any team to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, I'll give you two. The offensive line is certainly an issue. So, one of the answers there is, they're crafting this offense and being able to move the ball in part because of Tua's skill set, right? To be able to get rid of the ball quickly, to protect this offensive line. His sack rate is low. His sack rate when pressured is one of the best in the league, 11%. That's an incredible number. All part of your PFF Elite package, by the way, which is 40% off using Cyber40 right now. Here's my big concern with Tua. Even last week when he went 27 of 31 with Carolina, 2 fumbles in there, one of which really bad. There was a low snap that he should have caught, whatever. But there's another play in the pocket. One of the few times that he did show poor pocket presence, he fumbles in there. He's not offsetting those with big time throws, right? He's got good throws. His red zone touchdown to Jalen Waddle. He's got good throws. The dig route to Waddle. They're good. Not a ton of big time throws, special field flipping type of throws. But a 61 overall grade in this game. He's got 3 really good grades this year. They came against the Jaguars, the Falcons, and the Jets. 3 of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. Anytime he went up against a half-decent defense, we're talking about grades in the 50s or lower. That's my current concern using PFF grades for Tua going forward.
Yeah, and it's completely valid, right? And against pretty much any other quarterback, again, you would be saying, well, that's a real big red flag. But in a way, for Tua, you can also make the argument that, those are the only games where it's like an equalizer for the offensive line that's dragging him down the rest of the time. So again, you kind of look at this and you say, it's just impossible. We know that offensive line makes him look worse. What we don't know is how much, Yeah. And that how much is everything, right? Because if it makes him look 20% worse, then Tua is an all right starting quarterback and you're probably looking for an upgrade. If it makes him look 50% worse, okay, now we actually have a real talent on our hands if we actually get some protection. If it makes it like 100%, you know what I mean? Like how much that line is hampering him right now is the unknown variable in all of this. And it's the most important element because it's the thing that determines how good he can be. Right now, we're seeing a quarterback that makes a reasonable amount of mistakes and doesn't bring the big plays to the table. Last year, he had a big time throw rate of 2.7%, I think, which was the lowest in the NFL. This year, he's even lower. He's 2.4%. Now, it's not the lowest in the NFL this year because some other guys are worse, but that's back-to-back seasons now where he just isn't bringing those big plays to the table. But again, like the offensive line, does he even have a chance to go deep down the field and make those kinds of plays? So I think ultimately you're talking about a guy, we're 2 years in now. The biggest question mark I have might actually be injuries and durability. Like, he's going to get another year unless they somehow stumble into a Deshaun Watson type of trade in the offseason. Because it's just, you don't know enough to write him off at this point, and he's cheap and those kinds of things. But at this stage, like, that's a couple of injuries that he's been dealing with in addition to the really major one from college. that would be my biggest concern for Tua right now is like, does he hold up over an NFL season enough to be relying on him going forward?
I think that's a concern. The other concern is the big time throws. And before, when we mention this, some people come back and say, well, Tom Brady had a whole career dinking and dunking, and Drew Brees had a whole career doing that. It's like, well, they were always among the league leaders in big time throws for the most part, and they also take care of the ball better than Tua has. So it's not necessarily a fair comparison yet. I think it's a positive that the Dolphins are moving the ball with Tua in this current situation, but there's still a lot more to see. But we're open to feedback here, Sam. See what people think.
Brady, I mean, we don't have his entire career because our grading goes back to 2006, but Brady literally doesn't have a season with a lower big time throw rate than Tua's 2.7%, which is his career high. Brady's lowest was 3%, and that was based off like a couple of snaps. So like he's in a completely different world in terms of how many of those big plays he's bringing.
Yeah, so not exactly a fair comparison. So let us know. What do you think? What do you think of Tua so far? Is he the future in Miami? It's a